Yeah, you know the table for this. Hey folks, and again, I'm very happy to be back here again. It's been a while since I had a chance to support the Read-a-Thon and so forth. I'm so happy that we're starting it once again. Last time I came by, I think I was reading Aldo Leopold, favorite little passage from about him doing woodcock, because I used to read it when I used to lead groups to go, to look at woodcock when they're doing their spring displays and so forth. Today, I was asked by NVCT to kind of talk about some of the things that I find inspiration in. And I want to tell you, there's tons of things I find inspiration in, okay? Tons of different things. So it's really hard to kind of do it. And again, I decided I was going to go a little bit different from what most people do. Because it's me. So I'm going to tell you guys a couple of different things. One of it is pretty standard, one is not so much standard, and one I hope is something that you find interesting, okay? So one of the standard things I want to mention is, we find inspiration in many different things. I find it, of course, in the great outdoors, wherever the case may be, and some of the reasons people like Aldo Leopold or whatever like that. And lately, a lot of people find lots of inspiration in a lot of the work that Calamy has done. And I'm not going to read it, there's so many great things that you can kind of point out. But again, if you haven't read any of the different books by Calamy, I encourage you to do it. I've listened to Calamy on several different occasions, and now, frankly, in most of the presentations that I do, I include a lot of his stuff that he does, a lot of his interconnectedness to how everything fits in. And it kind of has shaped my own views. I kind of talk about nature being kind of like a puzzle where everything's kind of connected together, and that you don't want to lose pieces of the puzzle. As Aldo Leopold, I'll go right back to him, the first rule of intelligent tinkering, don't lose any of the pieces, right? And much like Aldo Leopold that said, I'll repeat the same thing. We don't want to lose pieces, nor do we want to add extra pieces. And adding extra pieces like the basics and stuff like that, not a good thing. And I was very lucky enough to have introduced Calamy before John McKee's Native Plant Podcast. Another inspirational thing, if you want to look at, check out the Native Plant Podcast. But again, I'm not going to read anything out of it, but just so you know, lots of people find inspiration in Calamy's work, and I bet most of you guys are familiar with it as well. So that's kind of standard. So let me go into things not so much standard, okay? So one of the things, and anybody who knows me kind of knows this, I got into being a naturalist thanks to my background and hunting, fishing, shooting. That was how I got into it. I missed more of my formal education, getting a different kind of education. I missed opening day of this, opening day of that. My father had no compunction taking me out of school to go do this and whatever. And for me, it worked out fine. Not that I'm telling you should, tell your kids not to go to school and stuff, but for me, it was fine. I was a good student. I still ended up doing whatever the case may be. And I still, still do a lot of hunting, still spend a lot of time out there. Heck, I was out just yesterday, going to my tree stand, even though I can only go for an hour and a half along the way. Even though I didn't see any deer, I did see all sorts of neat things. I mean, along the way, I saw downy rattlesnake plantain, a neat orchid, crane fly orchid along the way too, both evergreens, that sort of stuff. And so, no matter what, even if you don't see what you're supposedly hunting for, it's an education. And I like that. That's an inspiration for me. Has always been doing that kind of thing. So I'm going to read something very much kind of different, and it's from one of my favorite outdoor writers. Okay, it's actually from Bill Heavey, an Arlingtonian who now lives in Alexandria, and he's been an at-large editor for Field and Stream forever. And he's a humorist, and a lot of hunters will tell you when they read Field and Stream, you go right to the very last page, and you read what Bill Heavey has said. And I've been able to hang out with Bill Heavey numerous times. I actually wrote an article on my father many years ago. And again, I enjoy doing it. So I'm going to tell you an interesting thing that kind of struck a chord with me. Maybe it won't strike a chord with you guys, but I'll do it. I collected lots of his stuff in here. And he's got some great books. If I could just tell you some of the titles of his books, like, if you didn't bring jerky, what did I just eat? Or is the tent supposed to be burning like that? That sort of stuff. So he's a humorist. But here, this actually is not one of his books. It's actually from one of his articles, one of his Field and Stream things. If I can find it here. Let me just read this. It's a little hard. I should have actually. should have wrote it in a bigger print so I could read it better, right? So anyways, it's a neat thing which he calls boys should be boys, or alternatively, too many kids are becoming indoors. Okay? And again, this is, of course, he's an outdoor writer. He's talking all about, people being outside hunting and fishing, whatever. So it starts off interesting, and then it gets into what I think is kind of an important aspect to kind of consider. Memory really doesn't give a damn about what you think. At the yard sale of your mind, At the yard sale of your mind, memory is the whack job who shows up, ransacks every box, driving off the paying customers, yelps in triumph when he finds out something that he finds valuable. Memory has a mind all its own. And here are two odd bits of memory that 2010 that pop me. Okay? So it starts off like this. It's a soft June evening, and I'm picking service berries from a tree along a bike path. Foraging. The very skill that enabled our species to survive is now a highly suspect behavior. Pick berries in a public park, and strangers will stare at you like you're some kind of sex-offending terrorist. There's just one group that suspends judgment. At some point, I looked up and find one of those members staring at me from 10 feet away. "What you doing?" asked the boy. He's about 6 or 7 and has wandered off with his father, who's about 50 yards away, with a cell phone clipped to his head as if it's the only thing keeping him alive. And I'm picking berries, I said. "You can eat these?" That the fruit trees in the storybook had counterparts in the real world had not occurred to him. Pick a dark one. They're the sweetest. He picks one, eats it, and his face lights up. The primitive hardwiring suddenly activated in its inaugural run. He's awesome, he murmurs. He's all abuzz with ancient knowledge. When his father his father now approaching, the boy calls out, "Dad, come here. We got to do this every day." "Thomas," the man says, "what's our rule about eating things that we find?" His voice is strange, a sing-song of a judge deaf to appeal. Joy flees from the boy's body. He slumps. For an instant, he looks older than his father. It hurts so much to watch. And then, sorry, I'm having a hard time. I need my glasses. And he slumps for a moment further. It hurts to watch him. I started explaining to the father that service berries are akin to blueberries. That one of their names is Saskatoon. Comes from the Cree, and they were especially fond of the fruit. I found that the father. I'm sorry, I'm switching hands here. From the Cree, especially, and I found that the father to one side. The slight nod he gave, he started chewing, made me hope that he would remember something, that he would reconsider. But it's only a formality in the review of the evidence. His mind was already made up before he even came over. Now, not bad for wild berries, what he said. I understand the words individually, but I have no idea what he meant. "Well, Thomas, we better get going." He waved goodbye as the boys led back to the safety and sterility of the great indoors. And now, whenever I ponder the stunning disconnect between modern man and nature, I hear those strange words. They seem the epitaph for the lost way of seeing things, the lost way of living. Not bad for a berry. Each July, It's a campground with a group of primitive skills enthusiasts. I encountered an attractive single woman with 2 boys, 3 and 7, who are dying to fish in the pond behind the shower house. They have a broken Dora the Explorer fishing rod with blister packs with hooks and bobbers. Suddenly, my mission is clear. Every boy has the right for his first fish. On this particular planet, no man is granted a greater privilege than to be present to assist in the resolution of this moment. I set the boys to digging worms in the wet leaves behind the outboard. I tell the mom to go scout the parking lot for a truck with fishing tackle in it, then to find and flirt with the owner and have him give you 25 yards of line. Then from the nearby bamboo, I cut 2 12-foot pieces of 2 12-foot lengths with my leather end. In 25 minutes, we're just about ready. The line is 40-pound mono, so I have to shave off the tips just so it fits inside the hook eye. David, the younger boy, decides to keep on digging for worms. But Seth, his determination in itself. In him, I see the boy inside of me, the one I almost forgot. What about a barber, he says, as he points to the blister pack. Seth, I say, I'm going to tell you a little secret. We'll catch more fish without the barber. It makes the worm go wrong. The fish gets suspicious, and his eyes waken, and he nods. If the rod is long, so I put my arm around his, and we four-handedly wheel the worm into the watery world. It lands about 8 feet out, and as it starts falling, a bluegill nails it. Seth, bowstring taut, yanks as hard as he can, and the fish directly flies over our head and falls behind us. With a whoop and pumping fist, before we move on, with a whoop and pump of fist, before we move on, we have caught 2 bluegill and a largemouth. 2 weeks later, his mother calls me to say, Tess is telling everyone what he learned. I'm going to tell you a secret, he says. A secret about fishing. If you're trying to catch a fish, you do not need a bobber. Are you still there, she asks. I am. It's just that some memory, deep, strange, and overwhelming, has taken hold of my throat. And again, I really like hunting and fishing. That's the only reason that I became a naturalist. If it had not been for my father removing me from school and all this stuff, I would not be a naturalist. I would not have my career. I would not have my pastime. I'd have a lot of those things. And, for me, a lot of people don't see the connect with hunting, fishing, and shooting and all of this, but to me, they are one and the same. They've always been and they always will be. And that's the way I try to, raise my kids, that's my friends, all of us. That's how we got into the outdoors, and I'm hoping other people find the outdoors too. Now, it may not be your inspiration. I gotcha. You may be birders, you may be photographers, you may just like hikes, whatever the case may be. But find your inspiration and then go with it, okay? Now, I have one more little poem that I'm going to try to read again. Again, if my eyes will last for me. And it's from this series of books which is called The Keepers of the Earth by Michael Cajuto and Joseph Pushak. These are indigenous writers, and they're really great. They have 4 different books in the Keeper series, all of them fantastic. They're lessons. Back in my days when I did, 500 programs a year to, the kids, adults, and everything else, this is one of the books that I used a lot. Because I figured a long time ago, who would know better about the local wildlife than the people who had to survive on it, okay? And thus, I learned a lot of different indigenous tales and so forth. So here's an interesting introduction to one of his books. It's called Birdfoot's Grandpa. The old man had to stop their car 24 times to come out and gather into his hands to small toads, blinded by our lights, leaping like live drops of rain. The rain was falling, a mist about his white hair, and it kept saying, "You can't save them all. Accept it. Get back in. We've got places to go." But leather hands full of wet brown light, knee deep in the summer roadside grass, he just smiled and said, "They have places to go too." And just one of those things we have to remember. You know, there are lots of things that we may find important, whatever, and let's not forget that nature is one of them. We're all part of nature. Some people more so than others, and so on. And again, one last thing, and luckily I don't need to read to do this, because obviously I need my glasses to read. So I'm just going to tell you that. Some people may not know, I used to be part of the storytelling circle. So I used to go and all the libraries, I go all around the place, and I tell stories. Most of them were indigenous stories, because, like I said, that was part of what I used to like to do. Was part of what I ended up doing. So. Again, I'm going to tell you guys an additional story. This is one that comes from one of those books that I just mentioned. I think it's Keepers of Life. But anyways, in it, it's an interesting creation story. Right? It's told by the Barbago people of the Southwest, and it goes something like this. Etoy, elder brother, was out walking amongst a beautiful sunny day, looking at some of the things that he had helped create. Again, it was beautiful, the sun was shining, the birds were singing, the flowers were all in bloom, the sunlight was glittering right off of the beautiful green leaves. It was great. And he went over to one of the local Pago villages to go visit his little brothers and sisters. When he got over there, he noticed everyone was having a good time. The kids were smiling, playing. Such a great day. They were all having just great fun. And that brought a smile to Etoy's face. But Etoy then, he realized something. Because as a wind blew, it blew a leaf out of the tree. And as he watched it fall, he said, wait a minute. Things aren't always going to be this way. All things come to an end. The flowers will fade, the days will shorten, it'll get cold, and the people may not be as happy as you are now. And that brought sadness to his face. But then the wind blew one more time, and as he watched yet another leaf fall to the ground, sorry, I'll clean that up later. As the wind blew it again, he had an idea. So very quickly, he grabbed the bag and he started filling it up. He started, first of all, collecting the beautiful flowers and putting the petals and so forth in there. He collected leaves and he put them in there. He went to the birds and collected some of the birds' feathers and put them in there. He went by the creek and found beautiful colored pebbles, put them in there. And being a magical creature as Etoy was, elder brother then collected even the sunlight, put it in there. Collected the bird's song, put it inside the bag. Took the bag, shook it, blew in it, and they went over to the village again. He said, people, gather around, little brothers and sisters. I have something that I hope will bring a smile to your face. And as they all gathered around, he gave them the bag, and they opened up the bag. And when he opened up the bag, out flew the world's first butterflies. And they had all the colors of every flower, of every tree. Some seemed to catch the light, and even more so, they flew up into the air. And as they flew, they started to sing. And all the kids were chasing the butterflies, having a great time, so amused of this new creature, these flying flowers, which were now out and about. So as he was watching this with a smile on his face, how happy it made his little brothers and sisters, a little bird landed on his shoulder and pecked them in the ear. He said, little brother, why would you do that? He says, it's all good and dandy. You made these new creatures. You gave them all these beautiful flowers. You gave them the ability to fly. But you gave them our songs. And our songs which make us so special. You can't just give away what makes us so special. And the boy thought, you know, you're right about that. And like that, he snapped his fingers, and the birds were silent. So it is that for now, the butterflies are all silent. So there's a couple exceptions, by the way, but that's only but the birds were all silent. But still, they say that when kids see butterflies and things like that, it brings a smile to their face, as well as Etoy, and that's the way that Big Brother wanted to be. So, folks, again, I appreciate the opportunity to come out here, and next time I'll bring my glasses so I can read better. But, folks, whatever it is that inspires you, go for it. I mean, we all have different inspirations. It's more than one. Get it, go out there, enjoy what it is, and again, things like this, we all share inspirations, is even better. So I'm very happy NVCT invited me back here to do this again, so I can get re-inspired. I can remember some of the things that used to inspire me and kind of take heart in it once again. And again, I encourage you guys to do this again. So please, whatever inspires you, do it. And then remember one more thing. It's work that, a lot of you guys, as individual volunteers and things like that, it's things like Parks does, it's things like NVC does, that really makes a difference. And it's because of inspirations that lead to actions. And I'm hoping that some of these kinds of things, whether you're, again, no matter what you are, hunter, fisherman, photographer, hiker, whatever it is inspired to do it, use it to further whatever your cause may be. And I'm hoping your cause is actually conservation and the preservation of the wildlife and so forth. So with that, I will stop talking, go finish my beer, and then we'll get to